Okay, today what we're going to do is we're going to start having a look at this mechanism in here. So the way to approach it, or the way that I like to do it, is we'll take the cover off, and that's, you've got two screws on the sides there, and then there's 1, 2, 3 in there. From memory, that's all you need to remove. So let's get going on that. Okay. There we go, and now we've got access to the mechanism, and we won't do any damage to the case. The other thing I like about doing it this way, like taking this cover off, is that if we want to work on doing some cleaning of this cover and all that, it makes it a lot easier to do. And this is actually quite dirty. You probably can't quite see it on camera because of all the reflections, but it's really quite mucky. So yeah, it'll need a good clean, and that becomes a lot easier once it's off the machine. And here we have access to basically everything we want to get at here. Now, I did mention once that there's one capacitor there. I'll replace that, and that's actually very easy to do now that this is apart. It also makes it easy to get to all these other bits and pieces. Now, this is really very thick and sticky, and that should be cleaned off and replaced with something a little bit new. I don't know if you can see that. It's stuck to my fingers. It's like sort of dried honey in a way. It's just really thick. Okay, so I couldn't focus with the tripod, but you can see quite clearly there the split in the plastic, and let's see if I can get a little pointer there. Black pointer and black plastic, isn't that clever? Anyway, that's what I've got, but you can see there. Now, there's a brass sleeve inside there, and that's what runs along this rod. So as long as we keep that encapsulated in the plastic, that should be basically okay. So we can fill this with, either some epoxy or, I've got some of that plastic repair stuff which will, fill that gap, and it will bond nicely to all of that. So, I mean, it's not under a huge amount of load or stress or anything like that. It just needs to be able to hold it in place, to keep that sled basically moving. Now, because this has gone really, really thick and sticky, that's going to be causing a lot of stress at the moment on this, so that's probably not going to be helping things. So when we clean this off and get it sliding nicely and re-lube it with something a bit less viscous than whatever that is right now, that will certainly help things. And once we've cleaned it up, re-epoxied it, made a repair to this, this will all work a little bit better. So at the moment, I mean, I wouldn't try and actually play this at the moment, because I just think it's just, that's too thick, it's too gunky, that's too broken, and let's not break it anymore. In fact, I think there might actually be a second split coming here, and that's going to be trying to meet that one there. So if we don't do anything about this, this is going to end up just loose, and it won't be happy. Now, these plastics all kind of do this because they shrink over time as the whatever comes out of it over time, and basically as long as we can relieve stress and we can put something in there, just bonds the plastic to the brass, there should be no further dramas with that. And so the next thing to do is we'll get this black plastic cover off, and then you actually see some more of the bits and pieces. There's a bit of electrical tape here that I've just put on just to basically hold that tone arm from just flopping around while we've been doing this and that. Now here you can see that this part, sorry, I've got to look where the camera is looking, so you can see that that's just flopping about. So obviously there's another bit of plastic in there that is split, and this is the same as what happened with my previous Technics SL-5. So that needs to be repaired and so does that one on the top there. Now, I didn't have a problem with this section on the other one, so this is, you know, this is a new problem, but it's not unexpected because it's actually basically the same failure as what's happened down here. It's just basically plastic has shrunk around a metal insert, and of course the metal doesn't shrink, but the plastic does, and you know, it's the plastic that gives. Okay, so what we'll do then is basically we'll take this cover off, and let's see what happens. From memory, it's this screw here, this screw here, and I think this one here, and I think then it should come. There's one in there, I can't remember if that needs to come off to get this off, but anyway, we'll that's this screwdriver here. Just so that you can understand what's happening, you need to pull this way, and then it disengages. There's a piece of plastic, I'll show you that. So there's a little slot there, and there's like basically a bit of a pin here that goes in there, and when you push it this way, then this tab here comes free of this, and then you can just pull it that way. And obviously when you put it back together, you need to basically have this tab on this side, and then that lining up with that, push it in, and then just tack it over until that, you know, makes contact that just seats behind it. If you don't do that, you're going to have all kinds of trouble. So there you go. Now we've got access to basically this little circuit board here, and also then to this here. And as you can see, or maybe you can't, but anyway, I'll get it a little bit closer to that. You can see that that is split there too, and it was basically the same as the other one, my other deck. Okay, so the good news is obviously that these sorts of problems with the broken plastics and whatever, they're, you know, fairly rudimentary physical, mechanical problems. They're not complicated electronic issues, they're not CPUs or little microprocessors going haywire. It's just really fundamental, you know, this needs to align with that, and if it doesn't, it's not going to work. So there's a good chance that we fix these few problems. We don't really have to do an awful lot more to this unit to get it playing correctly. Now, obviously, once we start mucking around with all this, and it's a weird design that they've gone with this circuit board, is that the angle of the circuit board in relation to, you know, what it mounts to actually sets the, you know, the servo gain, which, you know, instead of having like a little trim pot where you could just adjust it and, you know, it'd be in some ways a little bit easier. But anyway, that's how they've done it. So that's the only thing really to that needs a little bit of attention and a bit of checking. And obviously I've done that procedure in the other video, but we'll do it again in this one, just so that we can see the whole thing again, so that we've got in one spot all of these bits and pieces together. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, before I get started doing anything else, we're going to remove this old capacitor, because, you know, I don't like leaving those in there. We'll get rid of that, and then we can start doing some other things. Now again, soldering, desoldering is, you know, it's boring viewing, but I'll put it in there just for completeness, basically, so everyone can see how it's done. You know, we'll fast forward and all that sort of stuff, so, you know, you're not wasting time watching me solder. Okay, that's the capacitor done, so that's it. So there it is, all nicely tucked in. Now I replaced a 16 volt with a 35 volt. Doesn't matter, still 100 UF. The only difference is this is, I think, 105 degrees. The other one's only like an 80 degree or 85 degrees.